Hello, everyone. This is Quantum Leap Revisited, where we get together, we rewatch some classic episodes of the classic Quantum Leap series, and then we discuss it and we review it, and we just have a nice conversation. As some of you know, because we've been doing this already for a bit. As usual, I have a great panel of guests here, which you know already, probably at least some of you. But in any case, we'll do a quick introduction here just to talk about each one, just so you know uh, what we're doing here. First of all, we have Sean Krummel, the artist, the real Sean Krummel. He has his own sticker collection, which he's designed, which he drew, which you can get on Etsy, real Sean Krummel art. The link is in the description below, wherever you're watching this. And he's also has his own YouTube channel. He discusses pop culture events. He also does retro comic book reviews, and best of all, he does drawing, which is really cool. Highly recommended. Sean, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. Then we have a veteran broadcast newsman, Ro, who is also the host of the Scarif Podcast, which you can find anywhere that has podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, anywhere. He also has a cool YouTube channel that he does some stuff there. And he is the co-founder of the Red 5 Network, which some people know. That's all these creators and people that they work together, and he is their leader. Anyhow, how's it going, Ro?
It's going fantastic. I was looking forward to hanging out with you guys and talking Quantum Leap.
Same here. And then finally, we have the Script Doctor. He is a seasoned screenwriter. He has his own Patreon where he teaches people about screenwriting. Also, his own YouTube channel is devoted to these type of topics. He has a cool new show on Saturdays, Scripts on Saturdays, which he goes over scripts that were candidates for studios that they almost made or considered making or may still make. And he kind of goes over them, reviews them, and it's something really interesting and different. Script, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm happy to be here. This is a great episode to talk about because it reflects on the industry itself. So there's some cool inside baseball here.
Yeah, it's a cool episode. I rewatched it today, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and it's interesting. It's great to get into it, and I'm gonna just let me just find it. I should have it here somewhere, and then we'll just. Wherever that is, I hope this is it. Okay. So everybody could see that, right?
And hear it.
Oh, well, I'll cut off the sound. In any case, it starts off. He sort of talks about the previous episode, what happened there, which is nice. And then, as we saw at the end of last episode, and of course, hi to everybody that's here. And just quickly. Back Yard Tardis had a personal emergency, but he's here in the chat. He's going to make some comments, and great to see everybody else here. So, and on Rumble, of course. And as we start this episode, we see that he's in the 70s. He's doing disco. And initially, he's kind of confused as to what this whole situation is, because he has no context as to why he's sort of in a John Travolta situation here. But then
he's got so much disdain for disco. It's funny.
Right.
And the 70s.
Yeah, in general.
Right. And then it looks like a suspicious man is here. And he's here to and while this woman is of course dancing with him. And then though this man that is here, he's here to basically open fire on him.
Well, it's a dramatic scene that's being played out where Sam realizes where he is and how much he hates it, and he basically asks to be killed. And then someone goes and shoots him, and he goes through a glass window.
Right, and he flies through the glass window, and of course we have the good opening here. This is a nice opening because you're still not sure exactly what he's doing here or why or what this all means. But then after we see these wonderful credits. He had his narration at the beginning, but it's not the narration that we know from later. They still haven't worked that out yet at this point.
I liked at the very beginning, he was like, sometimes jumping through time makes me think of past events, and this makes me think of prom, and it's the chick standing in the lingerie, and I was like, dang, Sam. Must have been a memorable night.
Yeah, I guess he had a good prom night. And then it's April 1st, 1976. It kind of rushes through the thing, but that's here. April 1st, 1976. That's where he leaped into. And now he sees he's on a movie set. They're all kind of picking him up. He did the stunt.
Let me ask a question real fast. Go.
Sure.
This might be. So we have the starring, the credits, and
Right.
Go back to the first one. It said Michael Green.
Yes.
Was that his name before he went to Lauren Green?
No. This is Michael Green. He plays the dad. He's the guy in the hat in this shot right here.
Because I didn't see. I saw Green obviously, and it didn't register. Because my sci-fi brain, I read it as Lauren Green, and then when he appeared in the episode, I'm like, oh, that's him. But now I'm seeing Michael Green, and I didn't make the connection.
Is it a relative of Lauren Green?
Nope, just similar last name.
That's
even
funny.
though archive footage of Lauren Green is in this show. He's not called Lauren Green. He's actually called Ben Cartwright, which is ironic because there is an actor named Ben Cartwright, but he was born a couple of years after 1976.
Okay. And I didn't know that was archival footage too. So
yeah, it's from the actual movie that is referenced in this film, and it's also the first anachronism that I can point out definitively, because the movie that Sam is going to be the stuntman in that uses that archive footage was shot and released in 1974, and this takes place in 1976.
Oh, wait, the Disco Inferno one? I thought the next movie that
Earthquake.
We see. Yeah, Earthquake, that one. So that it's surprising that they made a error like that, but doesn't matter now. This is the father. Apparently, the conditions on this set aren't so good. The father doesn't like how things are going down here because it's putting his son at risk.
Here's another question for Script Doctor. Why do they always make directors sleazeballs?
Well, I mean, a lot of them are.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, but absolutely. This is the other aspect too. So, if you want to get your feet a little bit wet with regards to how strict safety procedures are in a set, the dad, played by Michael Green, is bang on. Like, he is all about making sure everything is safe, everything is secure, everything is up to code, because someone had adjusted the crash mat that his son went through, who Sam is embodying, and it wasn't exactly where it is. So Sam got a little bit more disoriented than he was otherwise prepared for, or at least the real person would have been otherwise prepared for. And so he's freaking out because the director is actually cutting corners and he's calling him on it. And this is something that has been known to happen, especially in low budget independent films. They always cut corners to save money, save time, everything. And if they're especially doing a stunt set piece or anything of that nature, that's where they'll try and get it in one type of deal. So they'll go so far as to not even tell certain important details to the stunt providers, to the stunt people, so that they can get honest reactions and honest shock and face value and everything else, so that they look more authentic when it's captured on film. But it also comes at the risk of the stunt performers and any of the cast members or crew that's anywhere around the facility. And yeah, so whenever you hear any type of controversy about, oh, there wasn't enough safety on set, it's usually not so much the stunt person's flaw. It's usually like a tug of war between the stunt performer and usually the director. And only in rare cases, especially have someone like a novice stunt coordinator, will you actually have those accidents and not be caught. But any good production team worth their salt would always get a very well vetted stunt coordinator if they're going to be doing dangerous and complex stunts, especially like what we see in this shot here, where guy's getting shot in the chest. So he's got squibs on his chest, and then he's got a line that's going to basically pull him back through a glass window and put him onto a crash mat. And that is a lot of strain on the body, and you have to be in good shape to do that. And you have to make sure the glass is proper breakaway glass. So in the 70s, they had like candy glass. And today they have what's called silicone glass, or like gummy glass, so it's actually like a rubber, but it breaks just like real glass, but it doesn't have the chance of cutting you because candy glass can still cut you, just not as deep. So all those types of parameters have to be considered when you're doing a stunt. And I love the conflict with the dad and this director, and the fact that he's just like, we're quitting it because you're gonna screw up, you're gonna hurt either one of my guys or someone else, and I've already given you my warnings, and you're not accepting them, so I'm walking off this production, and you got to deal with the consequences of that.
My notes say Alec Baldwin joke here, but I'll leave it to someone else to.
Oh, that's way more complicated. That's a whole slew of other things.
Yeah.
Tex Rogers just had that in the chat. That's exactly what I was thinking too. When it comes to behind the scenes stuff like that, I thought this was a solid episode. I know somebody in the chat said it wasn't their favorite, but I actually enjoyed this one. The stories in this second season here are pretty solid so far.
Yeah, I like the setup and the twist, because you think, oh, he's going to be a nightclub dancer type of thing. They're probably going to do a little Staying Alive homage or something.
Right.
And it's like, nope, we're getting right into film production, stunts, and trying to save, as far as they know, because Ziggy's on the fritz. They have to save the little brother because he dies in a couple of days, but they don't know how. They don't know why. They're lost on the situation, so Sam has to play extra cautious, and I think it's really cool.
And it feels like they spent some money on this too, because later on, I mean, there's a huge like explosion scene and things, rafters are falling. I mean, they spent a pretty penny on this one. And
a couple of special effects with Al as the hologram and things falling through him and going around him and stuff. They really did, kind of allocate some significant money behind this particular episode.
Richard Brooks was asking if candy glass is the same as sugar glass. Offhand,
I think I remember. I think I remember because I used to have a candy glass, like a breakaway bottle that you would see in the old westerns that you crack over somebody. And I used one of them, and I saved one. I don't think I have it anymore.
Did you nibble on it?
Well, the pieces, yeah. And I think obviously there's a reason they call it candy glass.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have a long shelf life. Unless you shellac it, in which case it then becomes a little bit more
less than edible.
Yeah, less edible and a little bit more dangerous, just a tad.
Yeah. But sometimes they make them a little thicker than you want, and that's a problem too.
That's usually when they're doing so they'll make them thicker because what they'll do is they'll fill them up with like water or saline so that you can actually have the effects when they smash it over someone's head. There's actually contents inside to go. Yeah. When the earlier days they didn't do that, and people would be like, well, that's ridiculous. It doesn't look like a real bottle, especially when lenses got a lot better and screens got a lot cleaner to watch stuff in the late 60s and early 70s. And so they're like, well, if we make it a little bit thicker, we can put some water in it or saline in it, and it's not going to eat away the glass within the take. So they'll do it quickly that way, and they'll do either they'll do the long takes where someone's swigging from a beer a couple of times, and in that same take, he then smashes it over a person's face, or they'll do a cutaway to from a real bottle to a regular one, in which case they usually mark the bottoms of the real bottles, and they don't mark the bottoms of the candy glass ones, so that because the bottom will most likely appear on camera during the shot when they throw it at somebody or use it to hit somebody. But they do all those types of procedures specifically to make sure that they don't actually harm a person on set. Same candy glass bottles and stuff are also the same things used whenever you see a Western where a guy is shooting glass jars off the fence. They're not real glass jars. They're candy glass, and there's like a little electrical charge running underneath them that sends a shock through that causes it to shatter. It's all pretty cool stuff.
So what I liked was that the second he arrives, already the ladies liked him because he apparently leaped into a guy who's good looking.
Oh, he's a Chad.
Right, so
it's a Chad.
And I think even he's a bit confused by it, how all these ladies, but so this one that she introduces herself as she works for a record label, I believe, and
Boogie Town Records.
Which is weird. So her name's Tracy. She's working at Boogie Town Records. What is she doing on a B-level film set?
I think she says that her company's providing the music.
providing the music for this. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah, I
there's
think
lots
so.
of classic '70s songs playing in the background. Of
Yeah.
this, which,
Yeah, I saw a thing that some streaming services won't include this episode probably because of rights issues with the music that they use.
well, you got
Oh.
Carl Douglas's Kung Fu Fighting. You've got a whole bunch of hits from '75 in there as well. So yeah, they're probably licensing.
What I've noticed is that over time, these kind of disputes, they tend to resolve themselves because these songs get older and older. They're not all of them, even though we like them. But I think these days a lot of companies are more flexible in approving things. I watched it actually on a streaming service, and I thought that I heard all the songs. So in the past, you're right. There were a lot of issues with Quantum Leap and soundtracks, but I think over the years they've sort of managed to resolve it.
Oh, well,
And-
only since streaming became an issue, that's when they had problems. So when this was in syndication throughout the 90s and early 2000s, everything was fine and above board. It was the same type of licensing deal that they had when they
Right.
did production. As soon as it went over to a new medium, that's when some of the musical artists and the representation, and also in some cases the Hollywood studios that owned the record labels, would have and bring up issues. So that ended up being a big point of contention. Carl Douglas, coincidentally, is still alive, living in Austria right now. And all you have to do is just email his lawyer asking for permission to use the music in something. And if it is something that's going to be profitable, they'll send you a quote. And they get back to you within a couple of months. They're actually quite diligent compared to other owners of licensable music.
So here they're at this place. This lady is already very much into Sam, and then there was a part that was one of my favorites in the episode. First of all, I like that she's already hitting on him and more than usual. And then when they go to the bar, here she gives her business card. But when they go to, this is the part that I like the best. That this other lady that he was with last night, he introduces this new lady that he just met, but then he can't remember her name because he actually doesn't know her, and she thinks that he doesn't remember her name after last night he spent with her in his trailer, and she gets very upset at him. And somehow that's comedy that I like. I don't know why
it's kind of weird that a stuntman would have a trailer on such a low budget film. They usually don't.
Yeah, I was willing to suspend disbelief on that. You're right. It doesn't make sense that the stuntman would have it, but
does he live in a trailer? Maybe somewhere else? Well, no, they have an apartment.
They live in the two brothers live together in an apartment together. Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that if he looked like this, he'd actually be an actor, but what do I know?
Well, I know a lot of good-looking stunt guys. They just have no knack for acting.
I see. So they talk here, and then she starts.
Oh, the infamous mood ring.
The mood ring. She wants to give him a mood ring. He thinks is the dumbest thing ever. And then there's a funny thing that he says, "Oh, people used to like these rings so they could talk about their feelings," or something like that. And then she goes, "Oh, you can talk about your feelings." She says exactly what he's thinking in his mind, right? And he thinks all of this is really dumb.
And she correctly identifies that he's confused and feels a little what is the word? There was confused in another attribute there that he's like, wow, these things might actually work.
Yeah. But he calls the 70s self-obsessed and getting in touch with your feelings.
Right.
And the me generation, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's this great part that Al arrives and he's
dancing off the side there.
He's doing his own little disco thing.
Side note, the brother is I know him from Coach with oh my god, I can
Craig T. Nelson, right?
That's the one. Yeah.
Oh, he did look familiar.
Yeah.
Dean Stockwell is a good sport. This is funny.
He is great in this episode. I mean, he's great overall, but again, somebody that's never seen the show in its first run, I mean, he's one of my favorite characters now.
There are looks that he gives Sam, and I think those are really great with him. He's not saying anything; he's just watching his friend.
Especially in this episode, I noticed that too. Like they would cut away to him at the end of a scene, and he's like looking. I mean, I think it tells volumes of what's going on in his mind. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it's so clear in these things how Scott Bakula is more of a stage actor. And Dean Stockwell is a super veteran screen actor at this point. And both of them really played to their strengths here, and I perfectly cast, as we always say. This is the part where his brother actually talks to this girl who, for some reason, doesn't like Sam. She wants the guy that looks
brother. Yeah.
She's a bleeding heart feminist over at one of the local colleges, actually.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
She's just attracted to weaker looking
right. She likes weaker men.
Less threatening men, yes.
So here, this is the part where they talk, and he tells him that Ziggy's down. He doesn't have the information, but he knows that the guy. I think he knows that the brother dies.
Yeah,
he knows that the little brother here dies. Like that's what they've been able to conjure up, and they know it's in a couple of days. They just don't know how. They don't have zero details of it. So Sam has no idea when and where he has to act.
And then at this point, Sam remembers that he had a brother.
Yes.
And Al is really not in a position where he can share a lot of information about this, but Sam does remember something.
This also has one of my I think my favorite joke of the whole thing. I just lost it. When Ziggy crashed, he put a bunch of zeros on the ends of everyone's paychecks, and they immediately went on vacation. That cracked me up.
Yeah, that was good. So this is where basically Al's telling him, forget about your private life. You have to make sure to be a brother here, not what your brother is in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So now he understands basically what the mission is. And I'm trying to remember how much he revealed, but I don't think he gave him a lot of information here about his brother, right?
He gave him very little. He all Al says is that he never met Tom. And all Sam can remember is that he had an older brother named Tom. And
right.
It's slowly loosening up over the course of these next few days for Sam.
Here's his trailer.
He reveals something later on a little bit more, though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's slowly, like you said, it's slowly starting to ramp up. Yeah.
Here's his trailer. Or
I don't know. That's the trailer for the actress.
Oh, sorry, for the actress.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here at this point, they want him to do more stunts, and the brother wants to step up and show that he's a big stuntman too. But somehow Sam, knowing that this guy is going to die doing a stunt, so he says to him, and you can't do the stunt.
Well, they don't know what it's going to be because he's not even supposed to let him drive.
Yeah, like he has no clue how he's going to die.
Like
but
right
when he's presented with, like, the little brother wants to get his stunt card, his union card, to be a professional stuntman, and Sam is like, that if I say yes, that might be the thing that gets him killed. So I got to say no. I got to keep pushing that off, keep delaying it. Every opportunity that I would calculate him being injured in or dying in, I have to basically get in between, and that's what's causing a friction between the two, which is really well done. And because you empathize with this guy, he just wants to show that he can do the job that his big brother can do, that his dad can do, that it's in the family blood. But there's also something else that the brother can do that we'll learn soon.
Right.
And they drive away, and Sam is lost in thought, and then it suddenly occurs to him that he should be driving.
Yeah.
So this is cool. I like that they had the Corvette and all of this. People also said in the chat, both Ron and Richard said it, which is cool. Yeah, I like this car thing. It's a cool car. And there's an 8-track in the car, which impresses him. And then
and he says these old 8-tracks, and then the brother's like, you just bought these. He goes, yeah, but they get old fast.
And then he's remarking on the artists on them and how they're all, like, actually really good artists.
And then I think at this point he starts to remember something, Sam. He remembers that his brother, maybe, does he remember that he goes to Vietnam here? I don't know if he remembers it.
No, not yet, I think
Just
he's remembering.
Yeah, I think Al tells him for sure later on that he went to Vietnam.
I think he's remembering his brother was part of a basketball championship or something, and then he can't remember much.
He remembers that his brother was kind to encourage Sam to do something that Sam didn't want to do. And he remembers like that kind of little back and forth where his older brother was kind of looking out for him, but at the same time always telling him he can't do certain things. because he wasn't ready or he wasn't big enough or whatever excuses there were. And Sam's starting to realize he's now in that position. And then as he's remembering that, he's hearing Chris here, the little brother, play pretty damn good on the guitar.
Right. It's obviously another person stepped in to play that guitar, and you could tell by the cuts that Rogue can elaborate that really looks like they brought a pitch hitter for the guitar parts, but it's okay. I mean, they did it well enough, I suppose. And Sam here, I think there's a part that he starts even telling him a story, like a theoretical story about brothers, which he's basically remembering a story about his own brother.
Yeah.
Right? This is that scene?
This is the scene where he tells the story that his big brother was an athlete, all-state, and that the little brother really wanted to do that, but the little brother had an knack for physics, and so the big brother would just encourage him to stick with that instead of trying to be something that wasn't really into his actual forte, and how much the little brother really regarded and thanked him for that encouragement, even though it didn't feel appropriate at the time.
I love that they're watching the Coneheads and Saturday Night Live or whatever they're watching.
That's even better because like 2 days ago, my wife and I watched the Coneheads movie.
Wow.
I felt like they spent like a little too much time on watching TV of the era. It seemed odd to me, like they watched the entire like skit here.
The two skits, they watched the Family Feud one, and then the famous but objectively not as funny Chevy Chase, Gerald Ford bit.
But I guess they needed that to set up the last kind of gag where he kind of convinces or tricks the family that he can kind of see into the future, tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they wanted to establish that. It's not the end of the world.
No.
And then this is the part where he sort of convinces him that he should... does he already convince him here to perform or not yet?
No, not yet. Here, he's just made a deal with his brothers to not hit on the girl that's wanted to come over and talk to him. So he tries not to, and then she brings up politics, which obviously fascinates Sam. And then he ends up kind of framing it in a way where it sounds like he's trying to get in with her, even though he's generally interested in the subject matter instead of the girl.
I like the little looks that the younger brother's like giving him, like, nah, I told you not to,
Tex has another error for you in the chat.
9:29 p.m.
10:29. Bill Murray and the Coneheads didn't come on until
11:30,
2 years after this time.
Oh, yeah, because I know. Well, actually, you know what? Ford and Chevy Chase and Bill Murray weren't really on Saturday Night Live at the same time.
No, they hated each other.
They hated each other.
Yeah.
But the one wanted to. I think one took over when the other one left, right?
When Chevy left because he thought he was getting big, and he kind of jumped a gun there. He left, and then Bill came on to replace him.
Well, I mean, it seems to me, and this is what I think, that during those days, people didn't have Wikipedia, they didn't have smartphones or anything. They just figured we're going to put a few stuff from the 70s here. It's close enough, nobody will notice. And they just didn't realize that people would notice because, this is going to be a show that people are going to watch later, even years later, which I don't know if they realized that at that point. And the other thing is that they didn't anticipate that people are going to have all these either access to information or streaming or have everything at their fingertips.
We all have a Ziggy in our pocket.
Right. Examine things frame by frame.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't count on all of this. So this is
it was the same network though. They should have known, damn it.
Remind me, what are they arguing about here, Sam and Al? What's the
his man bag?
Yeah, Al's relishing how much he misses the 70s. Sam is criticizing him for it, and Al unfortunately still has no new information to help Sam on what he's supposed to be doing here.
Right, but he brought his own 70s clothes to the Leap, which I like. I thought that was funny.
And Ziggy is speaking in Japanese, right? By this point.
Yeah, that's right.
He also mentions, he's like reminiscing, and he mentions the Starbright project, which I was like, what is that? Is that his
Oh,
astronaut
Starbright is the
thing?
precursor to the QL project.
Okay.
Because we get little tints here that, like, when Al left, I guess, the Navy, he became an astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he joined Starbright, which then I think helped him meet Sam, which we'll find out more details of pretty soon. But Sam is really excited, Al is really excited about this because he likes the movie Earthquake, and he actually mentions the right actors in it, Heston and Green and all of them. And
they also mention Poseidon Adventure, and I'm like, I have both of those.
Oh yeah, the girl that's coming up here, she was on. She claims to be on Poseidon Adventure, and apparently Chad was a stunt guy on that, and
he doesn't remember her either.
It's like a running gag.
It's a good running gag, though. Sometimes running gags are not good, but I actually think that the idea that he can't remember all these ladies is funny.
Yep. Well, he's not supposed to. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Right. It actually makes sense within his character, and nobody even thinks it's weird.
The end of this sequence has my favorite line of this entire episode. We'll see if we get there.
I knew you were going to bring it up somehow.
This is.
I always write down the dirty line because I'm like, I'm going to see if Rose going to mention it.
Yeah.
This is the archival footage here, right?
Yeah, this is pulled from the movie
okay.
Earthquake from 1974. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm never not going to see Sam when I watch it again.
Yeah.
Well, he's wearing that terrible wig, so
I love that they give him a wig.
What's the final sentence that he says? I can't remember now.
Later on, after he falls, and does the stunt, and then the girl kind of, pats him on the back and secretly says, once a screamer, always a screamer.
Yep.
Did she have her own airbag? Because she went first.
Right.
He fell right through another window.
This is probably also the real footage.
So there's Lauren Green that Al calls
Ben
Cartwright. Ben Cartwright, who he just did.
I mean, it matched pretty well.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, I couldn't tell the difference.
Pretty good for a show of this budget and this year without computers and stuff. I think that they matched it pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, she looks dead on the car over there.
A fun trick is that they used to paint crash mats to look like cars, so that they could do that.
You're taking it seriously.
There's a great example of it you can see on the first Lethal Weapon. When that woman crashes into the car after she jumps off, it's actually a painted crash mat, and they just cut right before the folds in the crash mat appear, and then they cut to the actual stunt car where it caves in.
Movie magic.
I miss movie magic.
Yeah, people used to come up with very creative ideas. Now they're so lazy.
CGI. That's one of the things that really bothered me about the new Indiana Jones. Well, one of the many things that bothered me. Looking at some of the older Indiana Jones, I mean, all those stunts were practical. You have, him, dragging under the truck. But I think, one of the things that really bothered me about the new Indiana Jones is all the stunts were kind of like CGI, and you can just tell. They relied too much
on
composites.
They didn't feel authentic or in camera. Yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, the problem already started even with Crystal Skull with that jungle monkeys thing, which also looked very bad. But somehow this was, at least there you had Spielberg and Lucas, and they didn't fully embarrass themselves, only semi. But in this last one, it was just embarrassing.
I can forgive the refrigerator. I can't forgive the swinging with the monkeys twice. I can't stand that.
That is difficult. That's difficult to...
That's another show, Sean.
I can also believe the refrigerator because I have like a very old refrigerator that still runs really well today. Like it was built in the early 70s. and I'm like,
Richard has a Richard Brooks has a point. The least we say about The Last Indy, the better. Let's move on.
X agrees with him.
That seems to be a 21st century phrase, ever since 2006 or 2008.
So this is the part where he convinces him that he needs to play music at a bar, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he just happens to have a connection.
Right. The lady with the music.
And the mood ring.
You know what's interesting though is that
shirt.
that this is an old TV show, an episode. This is from years ago. They have their diversity thing going here, and it doesn't feel
forced.
It doesn't feel forced. It feels like this lady, and that's another thing. And I wrote it down. A lot of these newer shows, whether it's even the new Quantum Leap or other shows that people go through time, a lot of time they don't speak like they do in the era that they're going to. And here, at least I could tell there was an effort. They're using dynamite. They're telling him different terms that seem to be trying to speak like they spoke in the 70s. I don't know if it's perfect, but at least there's some kind of minimal effort, which a lot of times I don't even see these days. So it looks like he really went to a different time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Well, there surprisingly was not much of a slang in the 1970s than we like to kind of falsely remember. Because I grew up watching a lot of 70s TV shows and even some of the more hipper areas. And the slang was really minimal compared to anything else. Like the dialogue is pretty much timeless in a lot of cases. Like when you watch like something like Quincy, All in the Family, Columbo, even Policewoman, a lot of the procedurals and stuff of that nature. It's not really about the slang or the hip or anything there. Even Barney Miller, to some degree, doesn't even have that as much.
Well, to be fair, those shows are more kind of by the book. They're more procedural police officers. I think that they were going for more less slangy in some of those situations, whereas at least on this show, in this episode, they're trying to put him in this scene of like actors and musicians and things like that in a club. So I think they were trying to give it a little bit of a... Of course, this feminist lady speaks just like you said. She's like Barney Miller. But the other lady from the record label sounds a little more like her dialogue is trying to make her a little more hip to the 70s, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like one of the characters from Welcome Back, Kotter. Just
right.
Like there's always that one that talked weird, and you're like, oh, is that supposed to be the slang? But the truth of the nature is not. A lot of people
they're not speaking like jive.
Right.
When she first showed up, she said something like, "Is you real?" And all I could hear was Dolomite going, "Bitch, is you for real?"
Oh man.
And this is the part where the guy is performing his music, but
Dad's drunk.
He's drunk. Attention. He's sitting at the bar. He's not paying attention. Doesn't care. He's not a supportive guy.
Like a man.
Yeah, he wants to raise them to be a man and not a wuss.
He's got this
musician
because,
dude.
Yeah, he has this resentment because his ex-wife, the mother of both of his kids, has left him, and she took the youngest. And now he's trying to kind of make up for lost time, but he doesn't know how to do that. So he does it in the same habit that his father did with him, thinking that would work. And obviously there's still friction.
This was such a creative idea for how to sort of make it not look obvious that it's two different actors, or it's like a guitar player.
Turns around, yeah.
He turns around and
yeah.
I will say that as a guitar player, when I look at him moving his fingers on the guitar, it doesn't look very convincing in that sense, but thankfully they zoom out.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because
head level. Sorry.
Yeah. It's really funny because it doesn't take much for an actor to replicate the basic movements needed to make it convincing. This was a trick that I've heard stories about when they did the Partridge Family, because again, most of those kids didn't know how to play the instrument. So they'd actually have the actual musicians come in and be like, just move your hands here. Here's the timing. You don't have to worry about hitting all the notes exactly. Your guitar or instrument is not actually going to be picked up by the microphones or anything. Just have to be as convincing as possible, and this is how we can get to you quick. And it usually takes about an hour for an actor to memorize movements because they've been trained to do that.
Right.
But in this case here, I don't think they had the time, given how much the bigger set pieces they had to work on later in this episode.
I also think that during the 80s, especially for a TV show, I think there was this feeling of, well, they'll hold the guitar and move their hands a little and everybody will be okay with it. And for the most part, it worked. But I think that today people notice this kind of stuff more, and there was more of a relaxed approach to it back in the day. I will say that in some cases, there's like, let's say Michael J. Fox really did make an effort to make it look like he was playing what he's playing in Back to the Future, but that's sort of a rare case.
Well, he had more, again, with the movie, you have a lot more time with rehearsal, and you're also spending more days shooting a particular scene, where in television, you're between 5 and 8 days per hour-long episode. and that's around 20 or 30 scenes to shoot in that time frame, where on a feature film 20 or 30 scenes could take 6 to 8 weeks, because you're usually shooting between either an eighth of a page or a quarter of a page per script on a feature.
Somebody's asking you, who's playing the guitar? Who's the real person playing there?
No idea.
I don't know personally. Script?
I don't know either.
I didn't even see. I might have missed it, but I didn't even see a credit for like what I assume is like an original song for this.
Yeah, it seems like it, but it doesn't seem like that guy is singing it. It somehow It seems totally.
It was good.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't seem like that guy.
Right. Yeah.
Now I could be wrong. Maybe I would, if at the end, well, the funniest thing will be that he played everything, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think he played and sang. Doesn't sound like him singing, and it doesn't look like him playing. But
yeah,
close enough. The father, everybody's excited about the son's show. The father isn't. He's bitter and drunk, and he thinks basically he's more of a manly man type of guy. This kind of thing of him playing guitar looks dumb to him.
Like toxic masculinity.
Yes, toxic masculinity. But this is the 89 version of it.
Right, yeah.
And then when he goes to talk to him, he's like, "Oh, you're never going to make it." Oh, blah, blah, blah. He's just kind of a douche. And then he punches him, actually.
And he's like, "It's a nice punch." He's like, "You're lucky you stopped me." And he's like, "You're lucky you only got hit once."
Right. This was a good twist, too, when he goes back and says, F it, I'm going to go back to the movie set. And this is where we get, kind of an introduction to the new danger of him being killed.
Yeah. Right. It's nice that this was sort of, I don't know if to call an inciting incident because it's not the first act, but this is what, at least within the script, made him actually agree to do that big stunt.
Right.
And then, because this was the straw that broke the camel's back, he goes to the phone, he says, "Hey, you still need that stunt man? I'll be right there," or whatever it is. "I'll be there in the morning."
That impression was uncanny. "Hey, you still need that stunt man?"
"I'll be right there."
That's pretty much what it sounded like.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nailed it.
Close enough, man. Close enough. I mean, the thing is that he's in the middle of a club with noise. How could he expect this guy to pick up now and they're going to be there in the morning? This is very convenient, but I didn't mind it. At least they had the sense. They said, "Oh, you don't."
Man.
The one thing I'll say is to the writers that they told him, you don't just call a director the day before and tell him this and this. So at least maybe somebody in the writers' room said, "This is kind of ridiculous." So they added that little thing to kind of give some kind of explanation that you'll accept, that it's highly irregular that he called the director at home.
Well, the other part that's irregular is you'd call the producer, actually.
That's true also.
Because the producer's paying you, not the director.
The only way that I would think that that he could call the director here is that this is supposed to be a 2-bit movie that is so, kind of whatever. It could be that the director is the producer. I'm not saying that you're not right, but I'm saying that in this case, if it's such a cheap, crappy movie, maybe they could get away with this explanation. Not likely, but if I was a writer of this episode and somebody asked me, that's what I would tell you to make you get off my back.
It also goes to show you how critical we've become as modern audience goes with these shows, because there's like all sorts of like plot holes in these shows, but we're like, whatever.
I see that about Batman Returns all the time. I'm like, I love this movie, but how the F does a penguin have the blueprints?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that back in the day, and especially with TV shows on network TV, they really didn't think about all the different things that would happen. Most people didn't even. Some people had a VCR, and maybe they taped it and watched it, but they weren't worried about this kind of stuff. They were mainly worried about live viewing, and if they could somehow do a good enough job while you're watching this live, it was good enough for them. And actually, this show, in comparison to a lot of others, is actually more thorough and thoughtful than a lot of the other ones I've seen. But even so, it still has occasional glitches like this.
the perfectionist mentality for doing television show is always compromised by the fact that there's never enough time to do anything. And you have to learn the hard way just to settle on the good enough, which is unfortunate because when you're having this much money thrown around, you shouldn't have to ever settle on good enough. But that has nothing to do with the money. It actually has to do with the time. And I've always equated that more to the fact that certain networks and certain studios that produce television ask for the heavens when it comes to scheduling. They're like the shortest amount of time we can get this done, the better. When really, if you want to make a really proper, hour-long procedural or half-hour comedy or something, I always lean towards like 10 shooting days for an episode proper. Because then you can cover all your bases. You can make up for lost locations or sick actors or any accidents on set, and still and do pickups and essentially, which are part of the insurance days anyways. And then for the half-hour sitcom, if it's a single camera, 5 days is fine. If it's a live studio audience, you can do that in 3 days, and you have 2 days of rehearsal. So I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it. The problem is that it comes with a slightly higher dollar value, but I mean, if you're doing it well, and in most cases, the crew that work on all these shows are the best in the industry. If you're doing it well, it will basically give your final product more value. People will watch it more, and they'll buy it on physical, and they'll share it with their friends, and it'll also piss off a lot of the nitpickers out there as well. And then you have something good on your resume for it. But for the last like 40 years, Hollywood has never really cared so much in that regard.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, today you have these kind of streaming services. Sometimes they take a year and a half to do the 10 episodes with all the money. Here, I still think that for this type of show, there was less money to go around, and they wanted about 24, 25 episodes a season. That's a lot to film for one season. Once you're filming that much, on the flip side, as much as I just criticized, considering how many episodes, when I look at shows like this and Star Trek The Next Generation and things like that, and I think to myself, how many episodes that they actually filmed for it, and I'm really impressed that they managed to put together such quality ideas in many ways that surpass what we see today, yet they had less time to do it, less resources, and the technology also wasn't there like it is now.
Well, they had less time to shoot it, but they had the same amount of time to write it. Like that's the other part too. When you're starting production, you're writing ideally so that by the time you turn in your last screenplay of the season, you're already starting shooting on the first episode, and that's when you're dealing with like your first 8 episode order. And then once you're shooting the first 8 episodes, then you start learning, okay, this is how the audience is receiving. So how are we going to update and change and manipulate this for the back 9 or the back 13, depending on whatever deal you get.
I mean, the first Quantum Leap, the new one, had maybe 18 episodes. The second one has 13 episodes. Basically, maybe it's part of it was because of the strike, maybe because the show is just crappy. But regardless, I still think that they did a lot of work here quickly, and the quality is still pretty good. Still holds up rather nicely, even with the flaws.
Oh no! Like this show, I mean, it's done by professionals. It's done by people that were paying attention to how audiences were reacting to the show. Media coverage on it as well. They also had to hit the ground running because, again, a lot of their stuff was being shot, produced, and released far earlier than initially intended, and so they had to catch up with everything. Nobody had an off-season break like they were initially expecting because they were premiered during the sweeps and basically said, okay, we'll have a shorter first season, and then our second season will be the full slate of episodes. So they, the first year and a half working on this show was a grind for everybody.
For sure, and all things considered, and especially as it's an original property, and they keep refining it as they go along. I think that they did a lot of great work here. This scene I'm trying to remember. Is this the part where he already remembers his brother was in Vietnam? Was it here?
I think so, yeah.
And I think Al share the...
That's at the end.
That's at the end. But does he remember that his brother died in Vietnam?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I see. This is really cool. And I wrote a few notes. I'll talk about them at the end of the episode, but it's cool that this show, I think, well, I'll just say it now, as opposed to many shows of that era that didn't have these kind of ongoing seasonal concepts or ideas or even sort of plots, if you want to call it. This is an ongoing arc. This is sort of, you're getting hints. You learned about the sister from one episode. You learned about the brother here. This isn't standalone. These are, you could watch it and enjoy it as a standalone episode, but this is all stuff that's important to Sam's identity as a character. And I like the fact that they sort of build it in a way that seems organic.
Look at his face there. That's what I was saying earlier. He gives them looks, and I think he even says that's one part of your memory I hoped you wouldn't get back. And I was like, oh my God, that's a line.
Yeah. Tex is saying that I think in this scene, I was hoping that Sam wouldn't remember the fact that his brother died. Yeah, but like Sean said, there's so many emotions, and I think that's really what Dean Stockwell brought to the table. I mean, I really consider Dean Stockwell sort of an actor's actor. He's also acted in big movies with really big stars, and maybe in most of those, he's not considered the main star of the movie. But the fact that you have suddenly a scene with Denzel Washington, Meryl Streep, and Dean Stockwell, it's not like any of them thought, oh, why did they bring Dean Stockwell here? So he was the type of actor that if you put him in the room with them, they didn't think that was weird. Which, for him to be on a sci-fi show on TV, on network TV in the late 80s is just really a gift.
Yeah.
It's a steady job too, so there's also that.
that may be one of the reasons that he took it. I remember when probably we've talked about it, that he actually said that people, like his own agents or whatever, that people tried to convince him not to take the role because they said, you don't know what it's going to do to your career. It's so bad. But he didn't see it that way, and he took it, and he didn't regret it.
Yeah, this was still at a time when you started in TV to be escalated to film. You didn't go the other way around unless you're on the decline. But Dean Stockwell just was like, he was a veteran actor. He'd been doing it for like 30 to 40 years at this point. He's just like, no, this seems like a cool concept. I want to have fun. It's a regularly paying job. I'm always going to be working for as long as the show's going on. I'm doing it. And he did.
I get to be the kazoo of, grand kazoo of sci-fi show.
And he didn't phone it in, though. Every time he's in an episode, you could tell that he's really, really invested in it, which I really like. So this is the part where Sam sort of remembers, again, this just good acting. And it's this acting that, in my opinion, really holds up when it comes to the show. Then you see, I love this car. And then he goes and he tells the father that the son and the thing and
the son and the thing.
He's trying to get his missing. Yeah, he's trying to get his dad to like open up, his perspective on what his son could do, as opposed to following in the family business. And this is where Sam realizes, oh crap, their little brother has gone on to that hack of director's set to do the fire stunt, because we know that's today.
Sam's shirts are freaking awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks. He has cool clothes in this one. So he tells him, and then I think at this point, how does he figure that he went to do the stunt?
Just deduction.
Yeah.
His dad didn't support him or say he was good when he was doing the music stuff, so he's clearly going to try and prove that he's good enough to be a stuntman to get his dad's approval. And this is the only thing that he knows that the kid could actually try and do, because he has no other connections for stunt gigs, right? So,
and the dad is like, I end up doing all the same stuff my dad did to me, and it doesn't necessarily work out. But
so here, there's the stunt, and of course, Sam and his father arrive, and there's
and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, there's.
This is where they spent all their money.
Pretty much.
I love that when Al shows up, he's struggling to light his cigar while standing in flames.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
The thing that cracks me up about the beginning of this sequence is when the director goes up in the dolly, the Chapman
on the crane lift. Yeah,
yeah, he's it's almost like this is the first time he's meeting with the stunt person about the stunt.
It is,
Yeah,
that's what I loved about it. It's like, this is totally terrible independent film. This is taking me back to my early 20s when you find yourself on these weird projects and half of the people know exactly what they're doing, the other half don't, and the half that don't are sadly the ones in charge.
But there were productions like
days.
this. I mean, there were also situations where people even, I don't want to bring up, there's one that always bothers me, which is why I don't watch it after I learned the story. It really is a terrible story, and I'll just say that Twilight Zone, that 1980s Twilight Zone thing.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Landis one.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it once, but after I learned the story, I don't know. The thing depresses me.
Yeah.
Well, they edited around it, at least in a different way.
I mean, listen, if I was the producer on there, I'd be cutting the whole sequence. Be like, nope. Out of respect for the losses, not doing that. But unfortunately, lots of these accidents still occur today in the independent sphere because, again, they take those shortcuts. They're almost unheard of. I think there's a total of maybe less than 7 incidents in the entirety of Hollywood when it comes to stunt-related injuries in the professional, like the proper Hollywood studio thing, because so many people realize how dangerous everything can be. And the rule of thumb is whatever the most dangerous thing is on that set or in that set piece, every single thing that might be perceived as less dangerous is treated with the same level of care and quality. So if you got a gun on set, you're treating it like a butter knife, as if you would treat a gun. And that's just how it is. Like it doesn't matter if it's a plastic butter knife. It's like you treat like that's a loaded gun at all times. Same thing if there's a fake bomb on set, you treat the gun like it's a fake bomb that could go off at any second. Even if it is just like, a loud bang sound or something, they don't mess with that stuff because it's all about the safety.
No more sharpshooters on set firing at our actors.
Yes. Kurosawa and his archers, that would not even been allowed in Hollywood at the time that he did it.
Right. So you have here, he's in the fire and Al is helping him get through.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I think here Al appears as the hologram, or maybe.
Yeah, he's in there as a hologram, and I like Script was saying earlier, it's wonderful just to kind of have him there. But then sometimes the scaffolds or whatever, go right through him.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
That's like
Sean,
like that. There you go.
It's like that detective episode with him directing Sam where to go. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the worst for whatever year it is. This is
right.
It's not perfect. Obviously, you can tell that they did it, but relatively speaking, considering what they had to work with,
sure,
it's not the end of the world.
No, it's actually more convincing because it's very simple. We know he's a hologram. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be basic.
That's
it's
true.
not supposed to look super sci-fi or it's not even supposed to acknowledge the fact that it's interfering with him. Like that's the gimmick. And that's one of the things I despise about the current Quantum Leap is that when something happens, she destabilizes because it's interfering. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's not there. It's not interfering with your signal. It's just, you're passing through stuff.
Right.
Every
I gotta watch at least one of the new Quantum Leaps just to kind of get a frame of reference.
The only thing is that it could serve as a mild spoiler for the real show because they try to piggyback off the ending of the original show in this. So, I mean, you could watch, but really, I mean, it's really bad, bro. Really, seriously, I can't imagine.
I'll wait to the end of our series here.
We cannot escape a single episode without mentioning how terrible the new one is.
Right.
I try not to, but the truth is, it's really, really bad.
I get Richard Brooks says I have to be drunk first. Okay.
So here they load him up to the thing. He says, "Oh, his leg is broken," but they put the thing. He breathes, but it looks
Did I see the paramedic take the stethoscope and listen to his leg accidentally? I think it later on. I think if you play the sequence, somebody mentions that his leg is broken or something, and then
Sam says the leg is broken, and I noticed she touches it.
Oh, okay. Maybe because the stethoscope was around her neck, and then just kind of went to because it almost looked like
right before this little part of the sequence. Yeah,
it's too funny.
Well, it's like Just a funny sideline or whatever. Earlier, they're like, "Wait, we're filming in Burbank," and then we returned to the marina, and I was like, "I lived in Burbank for like 10 years. I don't remember there being a marina."
If there is, it's really far away.
It's on the other side of a mountain and by the beach.
A couple hours.
Oh, his mood ring changed.
Right.
Oh yeah, he's relieved.
He's happy to see her. And then I think that he's in a good mood now and whatever, and then there's even like a brief kiss or whatever on the cheek. And then they're watching the game now, and now they're talking about the son's future and all that kind of stuff. And I think when Al arrives, here they go to the kitchen, and he shows him a picture of his brother.
Yeah.
Which he's not supposed to do.
It's a silly picture too. Yeah. That's the thing that I laughed at, because I'm like, it's silly because they got a slightly photoshopped version of young Scott Bakula, disappointed with his big brother.
Same head on a 12-year-old body.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. Again, I mean, those days were different. This is probably the best with the time constraints they had and the technology.
Sure. Oh, you could do some wonders. What they probably did is got the original negative of a Scott Bakula family photo, and then a negative of an extra dressed in that uniform, and then they just did a development composite on it.
Not to do too much of a sidetrack, have you seen that thing with like Adam Savage? There's some print place in LA, and they were the print place for like every bit of newspaper or
I saw
ID
that,
cards and stuff. I thought that was the coolest thing. So
is that where they found some old newspaper print headlines?
Probably
that were used, like back in the day.
There's a video where they found all the dyes and stuff to make the Blade Runner badges, so they made it like an official one from the original materials.
That's cool, yeah.
Yep.
Stuff.
And in fact, that whole neighborhood had a whole bunch of props before it was shut down a few years ago. And all the props were kind of sold off to auction, because there used to be a prop house that rented out those things to all those studios. And the guy who ran it used to invent a whole bunch of interesting science fiction or Western or period piece props. And with the fact that so many productions are using computer generated models inside their things, and they'll like hand an actor like a wooden block, and they'd be like, hold this like it's a gun, and we'll just sub it in as a gun in post production.
That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So they have their heart-to-heart here, and then he goes back to the living room, and he wants the dad to support the brother to do music, and the father doesn't think that it's a legitimate thing, that he doesn't.
Oh, lost you.
Oh yeah, he cut out there. But I mean, well, to pick up with what Price was saying, yeah, Sam wants to makes a wager, because Al's looking at the television. It's news coverage of Gerald Ford coming off of Air Force One, and Al remarks, "Oh, this is where Ford trips." And then Sam's like, "I bet you
got an idea."
Little brother.
Somebody wrote audio. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
now we can.
Yeah, I had a weird glitch for a second, but now it seems to have fixed itself.
All right, I'll take it away, sir.
Oh, no. You were talking. I just, because somebody in the comments wrote Price audio.
Yeah.
So I was just, no, but go on. You were saying something. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
Oh, no, just picking up where you left off, that Sam makes a bet with his dad, and that if Gerald Ford trips, everybody has to encourage, the little brother to follow the music. And if he doesn't, then clearly the brother will have to support the kid in going into stunt work. And
right.
And the thing is that Al is 90% sure that Gerald Ford trips, because they don't have Ziggy to guarantee it. So even Sam is a little tensed up by it. And then,
Ford always tripped though. I guess they weren't used to it at this point, or maybe it was like early on.
Well, it's 76, so it'd be like, what, 2 years into his presidency?
Well, they tell him he's going to get trip again. He already tripped, so they thought that it's not possible that he does it again. So really, Sam isn't such a genius here. I mean, if he said it and he's tripped before, but somehow that's enough for the father to accept this thing, and then once he leaps, then this is the good shot
from the end of this show, end of the
even our opening has it. And then he leaps in. I love the way they leaped here. I will not mention the new show again, but the leap, with all the technology, they can't make the new leap cool like the old one.
Right.
It looks so lame the way they do it now. It's such an embarrassment.
The leap of the new one looks like his soul is leaving the body. The leap in this one looks like the soul is leaving the body and jumping into another one. The leap in the other one looks like something from outside is covering him up like a transporter. And
it really matters. There's just something so magical and cool about this, and so bland and crappy about the new one. But he arrives, then he goes, "Oh, I'm Popeye." I see here that they still haven't done the oh boy yet. They still haven't settled on that. There must be a moment that there will be the opening that we know. Mm-hmm. There will be a few stages before that, because there's a earlier opening that's longer, that's narrated by Deborah Pratt. They have a longer version, then they make it a shorter version.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's always in the tease where they give us it's either the end tease of the episode and also the opening tease of the episode. Where
so the old boys are going to be at the end of the episode and the beginning of the episode, whereas they're going to, instead of him narrating and explaining how he's done all this stuff the way that they're doing right now, there's just a kind of opening that explains what happens on the show, and I think it's very effective. What they ended up going with, I don't mind these. It's interesting to see how they got to it, but once they settled on the formula that they wanted, I think it works.
I like this star pattern behind him too, as someone that has to draw a lot of nonsense lines for effects and stuff. Right. Like, oh yeah, I could probably use that in the future.
And then here you have they ended it with this guy playing
a little music video segment there.
Right, which is
I actually stayed for the credits. I mean, I usually do, out of respect.
I usually try to, because I feel like a television show isn't over until I hear the end, like company card or something, or like CBS.
Sit, like sit.
Good dog, yeah. Stupid streaming. I can't stand how they set up these things.
Oh yeah.
So like I'll be trying to watch the credits or just listen to the music, and it'll drop it into a tiny thing.
Right. Sometimes it won't even let it finish.
Yeah, I know.
I remember when Network was doing that in the 2000s, in the end of the 2000s, but instead of the end of the credits, it'd like shrink down as like a picture-in-picture effect, and then the new show would start up
100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, they worked on it. Sure.
Tex Roger said, did they credit the guitar player? I didn't see a credit. It's hard to kind of go here, but I didn't see it.
I'm sure you can Google it.
And Tex Rogers also dislikes the credit squish. Yeah, so does Ron Donofrio. I said the name correctly. It's Ron Donofrio.
It's also frustrating because it'll do it within the first few seconds, and that's when sometimes an actor will be scrolling by. So then you have to select it, make it big again, rewind it, and then it drops it back into the small thing because it's just set to do that. And
Richard Brooks says they credited the country singer, but you've got it down. I'm not sure what they're referring to.
The pronunciation of his name.
Oh yes, okay. I finally did it. So I wrote a few points. I don't know if I mentioned them throughout the episode while watching. I actually wrote a few things down, just a few notes.
Yeah, mention them again.
I probably said talk as era appropriate. Yes. I wrote diversity fits and not it's organic and it's not weird like they do now. I said that I like the attire, the clothes that they were wearing. It really gives you the feel of a disco 70s feeling that they were going for, at least in that movie. I like the 8-track mention, the car that I like, the Corvette. Setting up a seasonal arc, I thought was sort of ahead of its time. I think I think maybe Tex Rogers or somebody in the chat said that maybe they didn't think about it and they were just sort of saying things and then it just kind of came together. But I feel like they did give some thought to it. I feel like they were already cooking at this season, at these episodes. They had in mind something that they wanted to do later. I don't think it's random that there's an episode with his sister and then an episode with his brother that reminds him of his life there. I think these are things that that were planned, in my opinion.
Well, that's when I asked last season how much of like a production story Bible they might have come up with before even making the show. Like,
they must have had some, but Script probably knows this better than me.
Yeah, you always start off with something and then you contribute to it after every episode airs. And it just gets bigger and bigger. and it's not as dense as you would expect it to be at the first, because one of the aspects is you don't really want to spend so much time on a story Bible when you don't know if your show is actually going to be picked up or not. So you just want to get the general basics down, keep it open-ended enough so that if notes come in that benefit the show, you can incorporate them and you're not kind of having to reconcile or contradict something that you are firmly attached to. And you just kind of have to roll with it. And then everyone in your writer's room contributes to the story Bible as well. And you as the showrunner get to pick and choose which actually works, best fits the show, and what doesn't, and what might actually work in a different context and whatnot. But it usually takes a couple of seasons before you get your solid foundation of this is what the show and the flow of the show is actually going to be. And a good portion of that is also selected by some of the show directors. A lot of the directors of the pilot, they get a residual fee of like around 10 grand every episode after the pilot has aired, regardless if they directed it or not. And it's because they come up with the quote unquote style of the show. But the reality is that usually around the 6th or 7th episode, whatever director is working on that particular episode is the one that lands on the definitive style and format of what the show is going to be for the rest of the series. It has more to do with the fact that the crew has been working on it for several weeks, that they know how it works, and then they kind of shepherd that director into maximizing what they can do really well to create the model of what the show is. And it's kind of funny because the director of the pilot gets all the credit and residual from it, but the directors that are actually involved in shaping it to make it look the way it looks and typically come back to do more episodes than the one that did the pilot are the ones that actually make the show what it is, and they don't get compensated for that beyond their initial episodes that they direct.
I see that Richard Brooks is saying, so Price, did you say this was going to be a daily show? I'm in. First of all, this is great feedback and really appreciated. We're still going to do it once a week at this point.
That's quitter talk.
That's quitter talk. We're going to do all the episodes tonight on the same night.
Yeah, well, because this day and time it works with our schedules, and it's nice that we're doing it once a week. Ideally, in a perfect world, of course, every night going through the series, there's something great about that. But I'm happy with the pace that we're doing. Also, keep in mind that there are a lot of people that actually watch and listen to this. Actually, don't do it live. Almost every week I see additional people that watched it throughout the week. Maybe not everybody can watch it at the same time, so we do our best, but maybe one day, who knows, and maybe we'll do other streams along the way.
It's also spiritual to how the show aired back in the day, once a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like back in the day.
I don't know if we could really cram in 97 episodes of content into a single episode on YouTube.
That's quitter talk.
I was gonna say, but
no, it's not quitter talk. It's basically, are we servicing the show fairly?
Richard Brooks says it's a great group of folks here, so I enjoy it and look forward to it. We look forward to it too, and we enjoy interacting with you guys. So it's the feeling is mutual, Richard.
Honestly, every week that I hear the theme song, I get a little happy inside.
The theme song to the show, or what Price wrote for
Quantum Leap.
Okay.
The Price one is your jam, man.
So let me see if there was anything else on the list. Did I say? Oh, okay. Set up seasonal arc ahead of its time. Good planning and payoff with Studio Lady. Yeah, I mean, what I liked about the Studio Lady is, And I've noticed, I've said this before about Donald Belisario. He likes throwing in ladies that are flirting with a guy, and that's where he sticks in a bunch of information secretly under the radar. Today, if this was a modern show, probably what would happen is a lady would walk up to him would say, "I work at a studio. Goodbye." And that would be probably the dialogue of the lady. And later, when he needed the studio lady, he'd say, "Remember earlier when I met the studio lady?" And that would be the most planning and payoff you see, and the most sophisticated writing. Here, she's so into him, and he notices that he looks good, and all the ladies are flirting with him. In the middle, she says, "Oh, I work at a label." You barely even pay attention to what she's talking about because there's more important things going on.
I'm mostly distrustful of her. I'm like, whoa, woman, little strong.
Right, exactly. But that's what's great in my opinion, that it feels like something else is happening, that it takes away attention. You heard that she said the record label, but it's not the first thing on your mind.
No.
And then finally, when I met the lady from the record label, then somehow it works. I'm not saying that it's the best planning and payoff, but for whatever it's supposed to be, I think it's effective enough. Maybe Script can elaborate.
No, I think that's pretty much it.
It's done in a way, I think, that feels a little more natural.
Yeah. I mean, like they're not trying to do anything with it other than define character and move the plot forward, and not let you realize that this is a point where the story stops to give you exposition, which is unfortunately been a fault that we've seen in a lot more high-budgeted current-day television series than
some stuff I see on streaming. The more high-quality stuff, I feel like sometimes you see writers that actually know what they're doing. But the more network TV stuff, a lot of network TV stuff is really bad. I really feel like some of the writers there, they don't know the basics. And while I'm not as much of a seasoned expert as Script is when it comes to writing, I know enough to be able to point out how it's done poorly on the kind of network TVs we show today. But I guess at this point we can just sort of go one by one and see how each of you felt about the episode in general. Sean, how did you feel about it?
It was fine. I didn't find it totally full of moments that were like, holy cow, that was a brilliant reveal. But I thought it was a solid episode. Sorry, that sounds terrible.
No, it's good. First of all, sometimes you have an episode that sort of is more impressive than another one, but I do think that the average of what this show does is usually pretty good. And the fact that we're watching it after all these years and I still think it's good says something about it. Super Mario Brothers 3, I can say that Super Mario Brothers 3 a lot of times watches these streams actually later on and then comments on them, but was able to made the stream face red smiling live person. Maybe there was emojis, but they didn't come up on this thing.
Correct.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Can I ask?
At least there wasn't that thing. That what is it, like an eggplant emoji? At least that wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a nerd question about the overall series, real quick?
Sure, I don't see any harm in that.
So you got Ziggy. He is a parallel hybrid computer. I have no idea what that is. I just figure it's technobabble.
A little bit, yeah.
So Ziggy can access historical records and figure out the probabilities of what he's supposed to do in each leap. Does that information change in the future? And is Ziggy aware of that? Does that make sense?
Of those changes? Oh,
Yeah.
That's a great question. So it's not 100% confirmed. The only person we know for sure that's technically aware of those changes is Al.
Right.
Because he would be on like a similar brain wave.
He's on a similar brain wave, and because his brain doesn't get Swiss cheese like Sam does with every leap, he's the one that has a bit more of a proper recall of it. And Sam doesn't always remember everything that happens in previous leaps, but sometimes they do come back to him at other points. So it's swirling around in the ether, so to speak. But as far as I know, I can't think of anything where Ziggy has a log of what it was versus what it is after the leap is complete.
Okay. That was like my big takeaway from this episode was that question popped into my head if there's any acknowledgement they would
Nothing
never
that I can
even
remember
say
from the
that
show.
really in an episode, but
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, like nothing from the actual like episodes in the show as far as I can remember, but who knows, maybe we'll actually get an episode where that is better explained, but I don't recall that offhand.
So next, let's go to Ro. Tell us how you felt about the episode, and also, like you did with the explosion and different things that you noticed, if there were things when it comes to how it was shot and different technical things that perhaps you spoke to you or you noticed them while you were watching, in addition to what you thought of the episode itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a solid episode. I think I like the story between Sam and the father and the family of stunt workers. I thought that was pretty neat. And yes, I did notice again what kind of like screamed out to me, more of a production budget. Well, first of all, I didn't know that the intercut scenes from Earthquake were scenes from the actual movie. I thought, I'm like, cool. They brought this actor in and he did a scene and yada yada yada. But that ending sequence with the fire and the explosion, I mean, that was pretty big deal. I don't remember anything of that caliber in the show as of yet. Maybe I'm not remembering some other stuff, but they seem pretty compact when it comes to these episodes. But that last sequence in this episode was pretty fun to watch for me. And again, I think it's been solid so far. It's I think what was it 2 weeks ago was my favorite episode. This one is I'm not going to say it's pretty close, but again, I think I haven't found anything really to complain about regarding some of these episodes. And I know in the first season there were some that were like, but so far they've been hitting pretty good.
Considering that it's a new show that was still finding its footing and with such pressure from the network, even those early ones, I think there was a lot of merit. But I do feel like now we're seeing the point where they're hitting their groove already for a number of episodes. You could tell they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And I think, for somebody that has never seen this show, even when it first aired, to me, it's going to be interesting to see the change, I guess the evolution of not only the characters, but maybe the style of telling the story, the narrative, the way that the characters relate to each other. Especially, since I obviously anticipated watching this to the end with you guys. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
So overall, and you have that unique perspective that you actually you like sci-fi and you actually have seen a lot of sci-fi in your life, but this is the show that you kind of skipped back in the day, and now that you're watching it, and especially it's an older show and all that, but you're able to watch it and enjoy it, from what I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I didn't watch it when it first came out. Like Scott Bakula to me wasn't like an actor that I was like seek and go watch his stuff.
Do you like him better now?
I do like him better. I think I watched Enterprise, and that was probably the only show that I watched with him in it. I can't remember what he was in. Again, he's not an actor that I seek out, but for its time, I think I'm really enjoying his acting. I'm enjoying the show overall. I think it's pretty good. And I'm the kind of guy that every so often, like a lot of times there's like comfort shows that you go to. Everybody's got comfort shows. Like I just did a rewatch of the original Star Trek, with Kirk, Spock, and Bones and stuff. And every so often I do go back and I kind of watch like older shows just to kind of, I don't know, not really reminisce, but, you've got comfort food that you go to. And when you have like a bad restaurant experience, you kind of go back to, your favorite burrito place from time to time. But so this is kind of like what I feel is going to turn out being like my comfort shows.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
And for me at least, and I can't speak for other people, after seeing this show and then seeing Enterprise, which I was also late to that game, but then I caught up and I watched it, I was really happy. I mean, I just already, after watching all of the Quantum Leap episodes and always liking Scott Bakula in them, for me, Enterprise, him in it was a selling point. I really enjoyed seeing him in it, but I understand that maybe different people felt different ways.
And this actually will probably, because Enterprise is one of those shows that I didn't really, I don't know, religiously, watch week in and week out. But I think watching Quantum Leap will probably make me want to go back and maybe rewatch Enterprise as a series just to kind of absorb him as an actor again. So I think, it's I'll probably take advantage of that.
I still have not finished Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I did either originally. I think it was probably Enterprise was like my least favorite Trek show of the time of the 90s.
For me, that's Voyager. I haven't finished Voyager. I watched, I think, a big part of the first season. It was really hard for me to get into. There's some elements that I like about it. It's not terrible, but it never grabbed me in a way that I had to watch the next episode. It's really
I'm doing a rewatch of Voyager now.
Yeah. Janeway is very inconsistent as a character.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a combination of the character, and I know everybody's going to hate me now. I actually like the actress. I've seen her in stuff that I like her.
Yeah,
she hasn't won me over. She hasn't won me over in this role yet. Maybe it's because of the writing. I don't know why. I watched this first season, and I'm not sold on Voyager, which is weird because I watched all of Enterprise and enjoyed it, but I'll try when I can. I'll try to watch more of it, and maybe I'll like it more. Except for the Doctor, I like the Doctor on the hologram Doctor guy.
I can't wait till Neelix and Kes bite the bullet.
Oh
boy, it's gonna be a while, man. Grab a Snickers.
I know, right?
And now, Script. What'd you think of the episode? How'd you feel about the writing and all that?
I think it's a solid episode. It's definitely in line with the quality that Quantum Leap maintains and what you'll probably see consistent throughout the rest of the series, with some exceptions in season 5. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But I liked it. I liked the fact that there's a heartfelt episode with regards to like family and learning a little bit more about Sam through a little bit more of an organic mean as opposed to just a random thought that pops into his head. He's actually got something that stimulates that thought. And I like the fact that it's got a little inside baseball for film production guys and people behind the scenes like me.
It was a solid episode. Like if you get those like crazy episodes where you're like, oh my god, that's so memorable. If this is like their baseline, it's still really well
still
done.
Good. Yeah, it's solid. Like you said, it may not be the one that's going to be the top of your list of best episodes, but it's by no means not a bad episode. So it's enjoyable. It's good. And we have an interesting one coming up next week.
It's a great one.
Yeah, I think I recall it being a good one. I haven't watched it in a minute, but I have to watch it again, and I recall that one being a good one. Really, the show once again flexing its muscles about certain topics and things in a way that's interesting to watch and not preachy or bad or anything like that. So I agreed with what you guys said about this episode. Also, thank you, especially the people that were active in the chat, like Ron Donofero, Super Mario Brothers, Tex Rogers, Richard Brooks, Back Yard Tardis was here for a minute and had to do his thing. Anyhow, thanks for tuning also on Rumble. There's some people, but I don't really know how that works. So thank you guys for tuning in as well. And I guess before we go, let's just quickly go one by one. If there's something you have to plug, Sean, is there something you want to plug that you have?
I need to finish this drawing video that I've been slacking off on, and we live stream just hanging out, BSing on Sundays, usually at around 5:30 p.m. talking about whatever. So,
and the stickers, of course, on Etsy.
And the stickers are still up there. realseankrummellart.etsy.com.
The link should be in the description. Also, I try to put links to their YouTubes if you can't find them. But if you go to the Real Sean Krummel on YouTube, you'll see you'll also see his YouTube channel. Highly recommend it. Then you have Ro do you have anything you want to plug that you're working on or doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So this Saturday, I am talking to director-producer Kyle Newman. He directed Fanboys, and we're going to be talking about not only that, but some of the other projects that he, I guess, produced. That documentary on the Star Wars Holiday Special, and then that shot-by-shot kind of like rehash of Raiders of the Lost Ark with the young kids, or something like that. So yeah. That'll be a fun discussion with Kyle Newman. Saturday at 7 p.m. here at the Scarif Podcast.
7 p.m. Eastern.
7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m.
Central.
Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Again, you can also catch Ro, the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. It's on all major podcast platforms, and he has his own YouTube channel, and you should check it all out. Script, anything you want to plug before we go?
A couple of things. So we'll be reviewing a brand new script this Saturday. Scripts on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then the following Tuesday for the patrons, we'll be dropping the bonus episode for Scripts on Saturday. That's a patron exclusive. And that was just recently recorded. And it's a really cool horror script. So we had like a horror theme going on this week for the Saturday episode and the upcoming bonus episode, which drops early next week. So be on the lookout for that, guys.
That was a great show. I listened to the one with you and Price the other day. I finally got a chance to. It was really well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do.
It was fun. I still want to listen to Ro. He did that thing with the sequel trilogy. I'm torn about it because I don't like the sequel trilogy, but I think that he did.
How do you think I felt?
but because you already suffered through that, I have to listen to it to see how much you suffered.
It's good. She's a very nice person. She makes some points, and Ro's just like, nope.
We got some before we go. Just some people that wanted to give us shout outs. Ron Donafero, thanks. Price, we appreciate it, and the panel, of course.
Lots of fun.
Let me see.
I'm disappointed. Nobody put a eggplant emoji in the chat.
They still can. It's never too late. Price of Reason Live. I echo Ron's comment. Very much enjoy the commenters and most of the discussions.
Most?
Well, we'll try to do better.
Yeah.
I learned things about episodes that I didn't know. Well, that makes me very happy. Richard Brooks, the original series Star Trek fan, as am I. And yeah, thanks for everybody for being here. I'm gonna load up our theme song, our outro. If I could just find it. Let me see where it is. I think it's here. So I'm gonna do it now. I'm such an awesome